If you are thinking about moving to Surrey, BC, there are probably a few things nobody really told you yet. And honestly, some of them surprised me too when I first started living here. Surrey has changed a lot over the past 20 years. Some parts are growing incredibly fast, some neighborhood feels completely different from others. And depending on where you move, your experience here can be very different. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you through the top 5 things you really need to know before moving to Surrey. The good, the bad, and the things most people only find out after they get here. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Xibong Zhang. I'm a local realtor based in Surrey Central area. I've been living here for almost 20 years now. I make weekly videos about real estate, moving to BC, and what it's really look like living here, especially for first-time home buyers and people relocating to the area. So if that sounds helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the future videos. And recently, I have had tons of you reaching out by phone, text, or email that are looking to move into Surrey area. And I absolutely love chatting with you. So if after watching this video, you want to have a discussion as well, you can scroll down and hit the second link in the description to book a call with me at your own convenience. Now, let's dive right in. The first thing you should know about is the weather. Surrey's climate is very similar to that of Vancouver, as it's only located about 30 kilometers away. And if you're familiar with Vancouver whatsoever, you probably know that it gets a lot of rain and is often commonly referred as raincover. So being a suburb of Vancouver, you can expect to get a very similar weather. However, I personally feel that people overreact to how bad the weather is here. For instance, in the winter time, you don't get very much snow. It's typically just cold, wet, and cloudy out the cool season. Typically lasts just over 3 months from mid-November to late February next year. During this time, the average daily high is below 10 degrees Celsius, and the coldest month of the year in Surrey are January and February. And during this time, it has an average low of 1 degree and an average high of 6 degrees. Being slightly inland, Surrey typically has a higher probability of getting snow than Vancouver. However, as I mentioned, we still don't get very much in regards to summer. They are quite hot, but they are just too short. The warm season typically lasts about 2.5 months between mid-June and early September. During the time, the average daily high is about 20 degrees Celsius. However, it does often get into the high 20s or even over 30. Especially in recent years, the hottest month of the year in Surrey are July and August. And during this time, there is an average high of 23 degrees Celsius and an average low of 13 degrees. In comparison to Vancouver, the summer are typically a couple of degrees warmer. Overall, the Surrey weather is much warmer and milder than the rest of Canada. This is one of the main attractions that bring people to live here, especially if those are coming from outside the lower mainland from BC. Moving on to the second thing you need to know, and that's riding with public transit. So because of its central location, Surrey is extremely convenient and accessible. No matter what direction you're headed, it's also quite common for residents to commute to other parts of Metro Vancouver for work. One thing that makes Surrey surprisingly easy to get around is its road system and highway access. Most of the roads follow a single numbered grid system. Streets run north to south and the numbers get higher as you travel east. Avenues run east and west, and the number increases as you go north, starting from Zero Avenue near the US border. So once you understand the system, navigating Surrey becomes much easier because you don't have to memorize a whole bunch of complicated street names like in other cities. For the most part, Surrey has excellent highway access, which makes getting around the city and the commuting outside of it much easier. You have got Highway 1 if you are heading into Vancouver, and other cities west of the Fraser River, it's also the main route if you're driving east towards places like Langley, Abbotsford, or Chilliwack. On top of that, residents also have access to Highway 15, Highway 17, Highway 99, and the Fraser Highway, giving you multiple ways to get around depending on where you are going. Another thing you will probably notice pretty quickly is that the roads in Surrey are generally much wider than those in Vancouver, which honestly makes daily driving feel like a lot less stressful. When it comes to public transit, Surrey is connected with Vancouver through the SkyTrain system, and there are also hundreds of bus routes throughout the city. Right now, there are more than 1,300 bus stops across Surrey, making transit fairly accessible even if you don't drive. Transit fares are divided into three zones, meaning the price depends on how many zones you travel through. But during evenings after 6:30 as well as weekends and holidays, you can travel across all zones for the price of a single zone fare, which is a nice bonus. Currently, the SkyTrain lines ends in North Surrey, which can make commuting a little bit less convenient for people living further south. However, that's changing soon with the upcoming SkyTrain expansion into Fleetwood and eventually Langley City. The extension will run along Fraser Highways, stretch roughly 16 kilometers and including 8 new stations. The first phase will be 4-station expansion into Fleetwood near 166th Street, while the second phase will continue all the way to Langley City near 203 Street. Once completed, it's expected to take about 22 minutes to travel from Langley City to King George Station in Surrey. Moving on to the third thing you need to know, Surrey does have a bit of a negative reputation, and unfortunately, there are still lots of people out there who speak poorly about the city. But what I have personally noticed that many of those people have never actually lived in Surrey. Lots of them have only visited one or two areas. And honestly, those are probably the two areas of my least favorable neighborhoods in the entire city. So in some ways, I can understand why they might have that impression. It's kind of like someone only visits the East Hastings in downtown Vancouver and then assume all of Vancouver was like that. Once you actually spend time exploring the rest of the city, you realize that area only represents a very small part of it. And that's important to understand about Surrey. It's a huge city, both in population and land size. In fact, it's the second largest city in BC. Like any major city, there are good neighborhoods and there are areas that are less desirable. It actually comes down to knowing which community fits your lifestyle and what you are looking for. You will also probably come across media headlines that make Surrey seem far more dangerous than it actually is. In my experience, a lot of that is exaggerated. I have lived in Surrey for nearly 20 years, and personally, the amount of crime I have witnessed and experienced has been very minimal. There was one time someone tried to grab my iPad, but to be fair, I was walking during late evening and holding my iPad in my hand in an area I was not familiar with. For the most part, I have rarely felt unsafe walking around at night. Now, are there certain neighborhoods I personally avoid? Absolutely. Every city has areas like that, but overall, Surrey is much safer and more livable than the lots of people make it out to be. Moving on to the fourth thing you should know before moving to Surrey. It's an incredible multicultural and diverse city, and honestly, I think that's one of the Surrey's biggest strengths. One of the reasons so many people feel comfortable moving here is because the city is very welcoming to newcomers from all different backgrounds. That diversity also brings a huge variety of cultural events, restaurants, business, and community activities that makes the city feel vibrant and exciting. Canada as a whole is known for being multicultural and immigrant friendly, and Surrey is a great example for that. The largest culture communities in Surrey are South Asian, Chinese, and the Filipino. The South Asian population, which includes people of Indian, Pakistani, Sri Lankan backgrounds and more, makes up the largest visible minority group in the city. Chinese and Filipino communities also make up a significant part of Surrey's population. What I personally like about this diversity is that it gives the city a lot of characters. You can experience different cultures, foods, festivals, and traditions, all within the same city. Throughout the year, Surrey also hosts a number of cultural events and celebrations, so there's always something new and interesting happening around the city. Moving on to the fifth thing you should know before moving to Surrey. Let's talk about safety. Overall, the majority of Surrey is actually quite safe. Now, like in any major city, there are certain areas that have higher level of homelessness, crime, and drug activities. But that's not unique to Surrey. In fact, according to the recent crime reports, Surrey actually ranks safer than several other cities in BC, including places like Chilliwack, Langley City, Vancouver, and Abbotsford. So, I really want to emphasize that most of Surrey is perfectly safe to live in. It's just a few smaller are areas that tend to give the entire city a bad reputation. Another thing worth knowing is that some parts of Surrey are located within floodplain areas. Roughly 20% of Surrey land falls within the coastal floodplain zone. The good news is that most of the land is agriculture farmland within the ALR, but there are still a few residential areas you will want to be aware of when buying a home. Surrey also has excellent healthcare access, including Surrey Memorial Hospital and the Jim Patterson Outpatient Care and Surgical Center, which is definitely a big plus for the residents. And that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you a clear and more honest picture of what it's really like to live in Surrey beyond the headlines. It's a fantastic and diverse city, and finding the right neighborhood for you is the key. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more weekly videos on real estate and living in British Columbia. Finally, if you are planning to move to Surrey around the next 90 days, I'd love to be the source for you. I get calls and emails every day from viewers just like you, and I'm always happy to help. You can book a free, no obligation discovery call with me directly through the link in the description below. Do you have any questions about Surrey, or is there something that surprised you in the video? Leave a comment below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.